One person can say 8 words and take 8 hours of your attention. You can receive 10 kind messages, finish 3 difficult tasks, and have one conversation that makes you feel proud of yourself. Then someone pauses before answering you. Your boss writes, "I'm not sure this was the right call." Or a person you respect looks disappointed. And suddenly, the whole day is reorganized around one reaction. You reread the message. You explain yourself to people who never asked. You search for the exact moment when you became less impressive, less capable, or less easy to love. It feels as if you are solving a problem. But often, you are trying to do something no human being can do. You are trying to enter another person's mind and edit their opinion of you. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is WiseMind Stories. At 10:16 on a Thursday morning, Nora Bennett watched 4 months of work disappear from a presentation screen. She was 37 and led client operations for a growing healthcare software company. Her team had designed a 6-month flexible work pilot for the support department. It was not casual. They had studied response times, staffing gaps, security requirements, and customer complaints. They had built schedules, escalation rules, and weekly reviews. Nora knew every number on the page. She was halfway through her presentation when Elliot Shaw leaned toward his microphone. Elliot had founded the company 20 years earlier. He was no longer the CEO, but he still sat on the board, and when he spoke, people stopped moving their pens. "This is what happens," he said, "when we confuse flexibility with standards." The room went quiet. Nora felt heat rise through her neck. Elliot looked at the schedule on the screen. "Clients do not care where your people want to work. They care whether someone takes responsibility. I'm surprised you're willing to put service quality at risk to keep the team happy." Nora heard the words, but her mind translated them. "You are soft. You are naive. You are not ready for this job." She began answering too quickly. She repeated the response time data. Then she explained the employee survey. Then she added 3 details that were not in the presentation. The more she spoke, the less certain she sounded. Finally, the board chair said, "Let's pause here. Nora, send us a revised recommendation next week." The screen went dark. 20 minutes later, Nora was in the elevator when her phone buzzed. It was a private message from Elliot. "I expected more judgment from you." 6 words. They stayed with her until midnight. Nora had received useful criticism before. She had corrected hiring mistakes, apologized to clients, and rebuilt a reporting system after her first version failed. But Elliot was different. Years earlier, when Nora was a junior manager, he had noticed her work. He invited her into important meetings. He once told another executive that she had unusually good instincts. She had carried that sentence through every promotion. Without realizing it, Nora had turned Elliot's approval into evidence that she belonged. Now his disapproval felt like evidence that she did not. By lunch, she had rewritten the pilot's purpose. By 3, she had added daily manager check-ins, mandatory cameras, 2 approval layers, and a Friday productivity report that would take the team hours to prepare. At 5:40, she sent her staff a message saying the pilot might be delayed. At 6:03, she deleted it. At 6:11, she sent a new message asking everyone to join an emergency meeting the next morning. Then she opened a blank email to Elliot. She began, "I'm concerned that I may not have communicated the rigor behind our recommendation." She wrote 9 paragraphs. In one, she defended her work. In another, she praised his experience. In the last, she almost apologized for proposing the pilot at all. She did not notice that she was no longer improving the plan. She was constructing a version of herself that Elliot might approve of again. This is what people-pleasing often looks like in capable adults. It does not always look agreeable or timid. Sometimes it looks like over-preparing, over-explaining, and producing one more document nobody needs. Sometimes it looks like changing a sound decision because one important person frowned. The goal is not really excellence. The goal is relief. If they approve of me, I can stop feeling this. But relief purchased through approval never lasts. The next reaction becomes another test, and your peace remains in someone else's hands. Nora had learned this pattern early. In her first job, she worked for a director who rarely explained what he wanted. A warm greeting meant the day was safe. A closed office door meant everyone should prepare for trouble. Nora became skilled at reading the smallest signals, the length of an email, the pressure of a sigh, the difference between fine and that's fine. The skill helped her advance. She could anticipate objections before other people saw them. She knew how to walk into a tense room and find the sentence that lowered the temperature, but there was a hidden cost. She began to treat every shift in someone else's mood as a problem she had caused, and therefore had to repair. That is why one person's opinion can overpower a room full of evidence. Your nervous system is not counting votes. It is looking for the reaction that might threaten your belonging, security, or status. The alarm is understandable. Obeying it is optional. The following morning, Nora entered the emergency meeting with 17 new slides. Jamal, her senior team lead, listened while she described the new reporting system. When she finished, nobody spoke. "What?" Nora asked. Jamal closed his laptop. "I don't know which plan we're following anymore," he said. "The one we spent 4 months building, or the one that makes Elliot stop disapproving of you?" Nora stared at him. He looked nervous, but he continued. "If our data is wrong, show us. If there's a risk we missed, let's fix it. But yesterday, one person criticized you, and today the whole team has to prove that you're not the person he thinks you are." Nora wanted to remind him who his manager was. Instead, she looked at the new slides. Daily check-ins would interrupt the busiest hour of support coverage. The extra approvals would slow urgent decisions. The productivity report measured visible activity, not solved problems. She had spent the night protecting her image by weakening the work. That realization did not make Elliot's opinion hurt less. It simply showed her what the hurt was costing. This is where the first half of the framework becomes useful. Let Elliot question her judgment. Let him think the pilot was too generous. Let him be disappointed that she did not lead the way he would have led. Let him tell the board that he disagreed. Those sentences felt dangerous to Nora because she confused letting someone have an opinion with admitting that the opinion was true. They are not the same. Let them does not mean they are right. It means their mind belongs to them. You can clarify your position. You can correct false information. You can listen, learn, and change your decision. But you cannot guarantee the conclusion another person will reach. Clarify once. Do not run a campaign. Nora deleted the email she had written to Elliot. Then she took a legal pad and drew a line down the center. On the left, she wrote, "What did he actually say?" On the right, she wrote, "What did I decide it meant?" On the left, "Clients need clear responsibility." On the right, "I am not a real leader." On the left, "He believes flexibility could reduce service quality." On the right, "Everyone in that room has lost respect for me." On the left, "He expected a different recommendation." On the right, "I have disappointed the person who made my career possible." Only one side of the page contained information she could investigate. The other side contained fear. That afternoon, Nora asked Elliot for 15 minutes. She did not bring a new presentation. "Yesterday, you said clients need someone to take responsibility," she began. What is the specific failure you believe our plan does not prevent? Elliot leaned back. At first, he repeated that standards were slipping everywhere. Nora listened, then asked the question again. Finally, he described a pilot another department had tried 2 years earlier. Two employees working different schedules had each assumed the other owned a major client issue. Nobody responded for 6 hours. That was useful. Nora's plan named the person on duty, but it did not require an active handoff when shifts overlapped. She wrote that down. Then Elliot said, "My larger concern is that you want your team to like you. Leaders who need to be liked avoid hard decisions." The old panic returned. Nora wanted to list every unpopular decision she had ever made. She wanted to tell him about the employee she had fired, the budget she had cut, and the weekend she had spent repairing a client failure she did not cause. Instead, she let the silence exist. "I'll strengthen the handoff requirement," she said. "That is a real risk. I'm not canceling the pilot." Elliot's expression did not change. "Then we disagree." "Yes," Nora said. "We do." She left without asking whether he was still disappointed in her. The walk back to her office did not feel triumphant. Her hands were shaking. She worried he would vote against the plan. She worried he would stop recommending her for larger roles. Letting someone judge you does not make you instantly unbothered. It makes you less governable by the feeling. That is when the second half of the framework matters. Let me separate the useful information from the personal verdict. Let me revise one weak part without abandoning the entire decision. Let me tolerate being misunderstood long enough to act from evidence. Let me decide what kind of leader I want to be when approval is unavailable. Nora returned to her team and removed 16 of the 17 new slides. "Jamal was right," she said. "I turned one person's reaction into an emergency for everyone. I'm sorry." She explained the handoff problem and asked 2 team members to test a stronger process. She kept the rest of the plan intact. Nobody rushed to make her feel better. Jamal asked, "How do we know the plan won't change again after the next board meeting?" It was a fair question. Nora told the team exactly what would justify a change: a measurable decline in client service, a security failure, or evidence that coverage had become unfair. Disapproval alone would not be a metric. Trust did not return because she gave a thoughtful speech. It returned slowly, as the team watched her follow the standard she had named. The next week, the board approved the pilot by 6 votes to 2. Elliot voted no. For the first month, the results were imperfect. One Monday handoff was late. A manager complained that scheduling took longer. Nora did not pretend those problems were meaningless. The team adjusted. By the 8th week, urgent response times had improved by 11%. Unplanned absences were down, and client satisfaction was unchanged. Elliot stopped by Nora's office after the review. "The numbers are better than I expected," he said. "I'm still not convinced this is how I would run it." There it was again. The opinion she once would have spent the evening trying to change. Nora nodded. "I know." Then she returned to the meeting she had been preparing for. Elliot never gave her the sentence she wanted. He did not tell her that her instincts were good. He did not admit that his criticism had been unfair. He did not become the approving mentor she remembered. The ending was smaller than that. Nora learned that a decision can survive criticism without becoming a mistake. She also learned that disagreement can contain a useful fact without containing the truth about who she is. The point is not to stop caring what anyone thinks. Other people can see risks you miss. A supervisor's feedback may affect your work. Someone you love may tell you a truth you would rather avoid. Indifference is not wisdom. The skill is to care without surrendering authorship of yourself. When a reaction takes over your day, Try 4 questions. First, what exactly was said? Remove the tone you imagined. Remove the meaning you added. Write the actual words. Second, is there a specific fact, risk, or action I can evaluate? If there is, examine it. Useful feedback usually becomes clearer when you ask for an example. Third, is this person informed, responsible for the outcome, or directly affected by my decision? Not every opinion deserves equal weight, but even an expert's opinion is evidence to consider, not an identity you must wear. Fourth, if I stop trying to change their mind, what do I choose now? That is the let me question. Maybe you apologize. Maybe you revise the work. Maybe you explain yourself once. Maybe you continue, knowing someone will not approve. One important boundary: let them judge is not a reason to tolerate harassment, discrimination, defamation, retaliation, or a hostile workplace. If someone's behavior violates a policy, threatens your safety, or damages your reputation with false claims, document it, seek support, and take appropriate action. You are releasing the impossible task of controlling their mind. You are not giving up your right to protect yourself. This week, notice the person whose reaction has been occupying more space in your life than it deserves. Complete 2 sentences. Let them think. Let me. Their reaction is information. It is not an instruction. And sometimes, the opinion that hurts most is never spoken aloud. It appears as a photograph you were not in, a dinner you were not invited to, or an empty chair nobody saved for you. That is where our next story begins.